Good morning. I'm Norma. Today's Friday, June the 3rd. Now, the reading I've chosen for today is from James chapter 1, verses 2 to 8, and then 16 to 18. My brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of any kind, consider it nothing but joy, because you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance. And let endurance have its full effect, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking in nothing. If any of you is lacking in wisdom, ask God, who gives to all generously and ungrudgingly, and it will be given to you. But ask in faith, never doubting, for the one who doubts is like the wave of the sea, driven and tossed by the wind. For the doubter, being double-minded and unstable in every way, must not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Do not be deceived, my beloved. Every generous act of giving with every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no variation or shadow due to change. In fulfillment of his own purpose, he gave us birth by the word of truth, that we would become a kind of first fruits of his creatures. This is the gospel of Christ. Now, watching the daily insanity in the world can invoke many feelings: sadness, anger, despair, hopelessness, but joy. Now, James says that trials are inevitable, but consider them nothing but joy. So either James is out of touch with reality, or growing up with Jesus as his brother offered him some unique insights into God's character. The joy he is speaking about is not an emotion. We get the idea, of turning your frown upside down just makes us feel worse and more alone in our grief. The recent tragedies here in Canada, the US, and the Ukraine should make us enraged and demand reform from our political and church leaders. Stories of suffering need to drive us to our knees in grief when the only prayer on our lips is, "Where are you, God?" But joy is a grace given by God. It wraps us in her love. It assures us that we can trust that somehow all will be well. Now, James does not suggest that God causes our pain and suffering, but that it offers opportunities to grow in our faith and to learn to rely on God. I believe that grace is given to us when we need it most. It doesn't look for an easy way out, or simply give in to the darkness, defeated. Faith produces endurance, that ability to get up, wipe off the dust, and take just one more step. I recently saw this quote by C.S. Lewis. "Isn't it funny how day by day nothing changes, but when you look back, everything is different?" I think this is how the grace of joy works. We can't see God at work in the midst of crisis, but as we reflect back, we see her handprint all over it and realize that we have been forever changed. James goes on to say that when in doubt, simply ask for wisdom and God generously gives it. All you need is faith and to never doubt. Never. I am constantly plagued by uncertainty, and I don't think we are asked to blindly trust no matter what happens. Rather, to recognize that when we are constantly second-guessing every decision, when we constantly question God's goodness, when we have lost all hope, it is like being in a small boat tossed back and forth by fierce wind and waves. We become unstable and give in to our fears. And in these moments, we aren't receptive to the voice of God. These are the times when we need to take a step back, admit our anxieties, and give them over to God's care. With a foundation of trust in God's love, we are confident that she hears and answers every prayer. God generously gives us every perfect gift. Don't be deceived into believing that God doesn't care or has abandoned us. The grace of joy calls us to walk compassionately with one another in celebration and in times of deep sorrow. It draws us into unity, to care for one another confident in God's love. The world desperately needs joy-filled people to share the message of hope, that God's light will overcome the darkness. Amen. Stay well, my friends. Until next time.